There's a moment in your life, quiet and then almost invisible, when everything you've ever dreamed of stands right in front of you. And ask a single question. Do you really want this, or do you just like the idea of it? Because there's a difference, a brutal, undeniable difference between having skill and having will. The skill is what people clap for, what they admire from a distance, what looks good on the surface. But where will is what bleeds in the dark when nobody's watching, when the applause is gone, when the world is already deciding you're not enough. You can be talented and still lose. You can be gifted and still fail. You can have everything it takes on paper and still never make it in reality. Because the truth is, skill might open the door, but will is the only thing that keeps you in the room when it gets cold, when it gets hard, when it feels like everything is falling apart around you. And most people, they never realize this until it's too late. They spend years polishing their skills, perfecting their craft, waiting for the right opportunity, but they never train their will. They never build that inner fire that refuses to die, no matter how many times life tries to put it out. And life will test you, not once, not twice, but over and over again in ways you never saw coming. It will question your worth. It will challenge your patience. It will push you to the edge of everything you thought you could endure. And in those moments, skill won't save you. Talent won't carry you, only your will. Only your decision to keep going when every part of you is screaming to quit. Because let's be honest, the world doesn't reward potential. It rewards persistence. It doesn't celebrate what you could do. It celebrates what you actually finish, what you actually survive, what you actually fight through when things get ugly. And things always get ugly at some point. That's the part nobody talks about. The late nights when doubt creeps in like a shadow. The early mornings when your body feels heavy and your mind feels even heavier. The moments when you start questioning everything, your choices, your path, even yourself. You sit there staring at the same dream that once lit you up and now it feels distant, almost impossible, like it belongs to someone else. And that's where most people stop. Not because they don't have skill, but because they don't have the will to continue when the excitement and the reality sets in. They fall in love with the beginning, but they're not built for the middle. And they never make it to the end. But you're still here. And that means something. That means there's a part of you deep down that refuses to let go, that refuses to settle, that refuses to accept the life that doesn't match the vision in your mind. That part of you that's your will. And it's been there all along, waiting for you to recognize it, to strengthen it, to trust it. Because having will means showing up when you don't feel like it. It means pushing forward when progress feels invisible. It means believing in something that no one else can see yet, including yourself sometimes. It means understanding that failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of it. Every setback, every rejection, every moment of doubt is shaping you, building you, preparing you for something greater, but only if you choose to keep going. And that choice, that single decision to continue to rise again, to take one more step when your legs feel like they can't carry you anymore. That's where greatness is born. Not in comfort, not in ease, not in moments of victory, but in the quiet, painful, relentless grind, where your will is tested again and again. There was a man who failed over 1,000 times, trying to create something that would change the world. People laughed at him, called him crazy, told him to give up, but he didn't stop. He didn't stop because he had skill. He stopped because he didn't have will. No, wait, he didn't stop because he had will, because every failure wasn't a defeat to him. Well, because every failure wasn't a defeat to him. It was a lesson, a step closer, a reason to keep going. And eventually that persistence lit up the world in ways no one could have imagined. And then there was another man born into poverty, facing loss after loss, defeat after defeat, rejected over and over again by a system that told him he wasn't enough, and yet he kept going. Not because it was easy, not because he had all the answers, but because he refused to let his circumstances define his future. His will was stronger than his pain, stronger than his fear, stronger than the voices telling him to quit. And that's what carried him to a place where his name would be remembered for generations. And then there was a dreamer missing the Someone who believed in something so deeply that even when doors slammed in his face, even when people told him his ideas were worthless, he kept creating, kept building, kept imagining a world that didn't exist yet until one day it did. Not because he was the most skilled person in the room, but because he was the one who refused to give up on his vision. And that's the difference. That's the line between those who dream and those who do. It's not talent. It's not luck. It's not luck. It's will. It's the ability to endure, to persist, to stay committed when everything around you is trying to pull you away from your purpose. Because purpose isn't something you find, it's something you fight for, something you protect, something you choose every single day, even when it's hard, even when it hurts. And as you move forward, as you chase whatever it is that's calling you, you are going to have to ask yourself that question again and again. Do I just have skill or do I have will? Because skill will get you noticed, but will make you unforgettable. Skill will give you opportunities, but what will make sure you don't waste them. Skill will impress people, but what will inspire. Because there's nothing more powerful than someone who refuses to quit. So when the doubt comes, and it will, when the fear creeps in, and it always does when the road gets tough, and it definitely will, remember this: you don't need to be the most talented person in the room. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need perfect conditions or perfect timing. All you need is the decision, the unshakable, undeniable decision, and no matter what happens, you'll not stop it. Because at the end of the day, it's not about how skilled you are. It's about how far you're willing to go. It's about how much you're willing to sacrifice, how many times you're willing to get back up, how long you're willing to stay in the fight when there's no guarantee of success. That's what separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. That's what turns dreams into reality. And right now, in this moment, you have a choice. You can keep relying on what you have, or you can build what you need. You can stay comfortable with your skill, or you can develop the will that will carry you through anything life throws your way. Because once you have that, once you truly understand what it means to keep going no matter what, there's no thing, absolutely nothing that can stop you. Because the truth is, the moment you decide not to stop, something shifts inside you. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It doesn't come with fireworks or applause. It's quiet, almost invisible, but it's powerful. It's the moment you stop negotiating with your excuses and start committing to your purpose. And that's where the real journey begins. Because up until that point, everything you've done has been conditional. You worked and you felt like it. You pushed when it was convenient. You believed when things were going your way. But will doesn't operate on condition. It doesn't ask how you feel. It doesn't care if you're tired, if you're scared, if you're uncertain. It shows up anyway. It moves anyway. It fights anyway. And that's what separates those who start from those who finish. You see, the world is full of people who started strong. People who had passion, energy, excitement. People who had skill. But somewhere along the way, life hit them. Reality tested them, and they realized something they weren't prepared for. That success is not built in moments of motivation. It's built in moments of resistance. It's built on the days when nothing makes sense, when progress feels slow, when results are nowhere to be found, when you give everything you have and still feel like it's not enough. That's where most people break. That's where they begin to question if it's even worth it. That's when they start looking for an exit. But the ones who make it, the ones who rise, they do something different in that moment. They lean in. They embrace the struggle. They understand that this is not a sign to quit. It's a sign that they're getting closer. There was a time when a young man stood in a small workshop surrounded by failure after failure, trying to build something that no one believed in. His ideas were died. His attempts laughed at, his persistence questioned. He didn't have unlimited resources. He didn't have a clear path. What he had was doubt from the outside world and uncertainty within himself, but he also had something stronger. He had will. He kept experimenting, kept failing, kept learning over and over again. And every time something didn't work, instead of seeing it as the end, he saw it as information, as progress, as proof that he was moving forward, even if it didn't look like it yet. And eventually, after countless attempts, he created something that didn't just succeed. It changed industries, it changed lives, it changed the way people saw what was possible. That's what will does. It turns repeated failure into inevitable success. And then there was another story A man who lost more elections than most people would dare to run for. Rejected, defeated, overlooked time and time again. Imagine standing in front of the world, giving everything you had, only to be told over and over that you're not good enough. Imagine carrying that weight, that disappointment, that doubt, and still choosing to try again. Most people wouldn't. Most people couldn't, but he did, because his will was stronger than his fear of failure, stronger than the embarrassment, stronger than the pain of rejection. And in the end, it wasn't his talent that defined him. It was his persistence. It was his refusal to give up when giving up would have been the easiest thing in the world. And that's what led him to a position where he could leave a legacy that would outlive him. And then there are those who create something out of nothing. Breathers who see a world that doesn't exist yet and decide to build it anyway. They face closed doors, criticism, doubt from others and from within. But they keep going, not because they guarantee success, but because they're unwilling to. Live a life where they never try. That's the power of will. It doesn't promise you an easy path. It guarantees you a meaningful one. Because when you operate from will, you stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop making excuses. You stop blaming your circumstances. You take ownership. Full ownership of your actions, your choices, your future. And that's where transformation happens. It happens when you wake up on a day you don't feel like moving, and you move anyway. When you're tired, drained, mentally exhausted, and you still show up. When doubt whispers in your ear that you are not enough, and you respond with action instead of fear. Because action silences doubt. Every step you take, every effort you make, every time you push through resistance, you're building something inside yourself that no one can take away from you. You're building discipline, and discipline is the foundation of will. Motivation will come and go. Feelings will change. Circumstances will shift. But discipline stays. Discipline is what carries you when everything else fades. And as you build that discipline, something else starts to grow. Clarity. You begin to see your path more clearly, not because the road becomes easier, but because you become stronger. You become more focused, more resilient, more certain of who you are and what you're capable of. And that clarity fuels your vision, because without vision, will has no direction. And without will, vision has no power. You need both. You need to see where you're going, and you need the strength to keep moving toward it, no matter what stands in your way. Your vision is not just a dream. It's a responsibility. It's a calling. It's something that was placed inside you for a reason, and it's not going to be easy to bring it to life. It's going to demand everything from you. Your time, your energy, your comfort, your patience. It's going to ask you to sacrifice, and that's where most people hesitate, because they want success, but they don't want the cost that comes with it. They want the reward without the struggle, the result without the process. But it doesn't work like that. If you want something extraordinary, you have to be willing to do what's ordinary consistently over a long period of time without immediate results. You have to be willing to work in silence, to grind when no one is watching, to stay committed when no one is clapping. That's the price. And the question is, are you willing to pay it? Because if you truly are, then nothing can stop you. Not failure, not rejection, not setbacks, not even your own doubts, because you've made a decision, a real decision, the kind that doesn't change when things get hard. And once you reach that point, once you become that person, everything changes. You stop seeing obstacles as barriers and start seeing them as opportunities. You stop fearing failure and start using it as fuel. You stop waiting for permission and start creating your own path. You become unstoppable, not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. And as you continue this journey, as you push forward through every challenge, every setback, every moment of doubt, you begin to realize something powerful. You were never lacking skill. What you were missing was will. And now that you have it, now that you built it, strengthened it, committed to it, there's no limit to what you can achieve. Because will doesn't just help you start. Will make sure you finish. So when the world tests you again, and it will when things don't go your way, when progress feels slow, when the dream feels distant, stay in your ground. Remind yourself who you are becoming. Remind yourself why you started. And most importantly, remind yourself that you didn't come this far just to stop now. because this is your moment, not tomorrow, not someday, right now. This is where you decide if you're going to be another person with wasted potential or the one who turned their vision into reality. This is where you prove to yourself that you don't just have skill, you have will. And as you stand there in the middle of your journey, somewhere between who you used to be and who you're trying to become, you begin to feel it. That pressure, that weight, that silent battle that no one else can see. Because the hardest part of this journey was never the outside world. It was always the war happening within you. The war between comfort and growth, between fear and faith, between the version of you that wants to quit and the version of you that refuses to settle. And every single day, that battle shows up again. It shows up when the alarm rings and your body begs for more sleep. It shows up when things don't go your way and frustration starts to take over. It shows up when you compare your progress to someone else and feel like you're falling behind. It shows up in the silence in those moments when you're alone with your thoughts, questioning everything. And that's where will is forged. Not in the spotlight, not in moments of victory, but in the quiet, unseen decisions you make when nobody is there to hold you accountable. When you choose discipline over distraction. When you choose effort over excuses. When you choose to keep going. Even when it feels like you're the only one who believes in your dream. Because let's be real, there will be times when no one believes in you. Not your friends, not your family, not the people you thought would support you the most. And it's not because they want to see you fail. It's because they can't see what you see. They don't feel what you feel. They don't carry that vibe. Science the way you do. And if you're not careful, their doubt can become your doubt. That's how dreams die. Not because they were impossible, but because the person chasing them started listening to the wrong voices. But you can't afford that. You can't afford to let temporary opinions destroy a permanent vision. You can't afford to trade your future for comfort. You can't afford to shrink yourself just to fit into places you've already outgrown. Because deep down, you know you were meant for more, not average, not ordinary, more. But more comes with a price. It comes with loneliness. It comes with sacrifice. It comes with moments where you feel misunderstood, where you question if all of this is even worth it. And in those moments, that's where most people turn back. They go back to what's safe, what's familiar, what doesn't challenge them. Because staying where you are is easier than becoming who you're meant to be. But easier doesn't lead to better. Growth is uncomfortable. Transformation is painful. And becoming the best version of yourself requires letting go of the version of you that's been holding you back. That means letting go of old habits, old mindsets, old excuses, even old relationships sometimes. It means stepping into the unknown without guarantee, without certainty, just faith in the process and belief in yourself. And that's not easy. There was a time when a young creator had a vision so different, so unconventional that no one wanted to invest in it. Doors closed. Opportunities disappeared. Rejection became a constant companion. And at some point, he lost almost everything, but he didn't lose his will. Even when he had nothing left, he kept creating, kept building, kept believing in something that no one else could understand yet. And eventually that vision turned into something magical, something that would inspire millions around the world, because will doesn't need validation. It doesn't need perfect condition. It just needs commitment. And the same is true for you. You don't need everyone to understand your journey. You don't need constant motivation. You don't need everything to go your way. What you need is the decision to keep moving forward, no matter what. Because every step you take, no matter how small, is progress. Every time you refuse to quit, you're getting stronger. Every time you push through discomfort, you're becoming someone capable of achieving things most people only dream about. And slowly, things begin to change, not overnight, not instantly, but gradually. You start thinking differently, acting differently, carrying yourself differently. Challenges that once felt overwhelming now feel manageable. Fear that once controlled you now becomes something you face head on. That's growth. That's transformation. And that's what will does to you. It reshapes you. It rebuilds you. It turns you into someone who doesn't just chase goals, but conquers them. And as this transformation continues, something powerful happens. You stop needing external validation. You stop seeking approval. You stop worrying about what people think because you're too focused on becoming who you said you would be. And that focus, that relentless commitment becomes your greatest strength. Because God, you're not just working for results. You're working because it's who you are. This is no longer about proving something to the world. It's about proving something to yourself, that you can do it, that you will do it, no matter how long it takes, no matter how hard it gets, no matter how many times you have to start over, because that's what it looks like. It's not loud, it's not flashy, it's not always visible, but it's unstoppable. And now you're standing at a different level, stronger, sharper, more focused than you've ever been before. But the journey isn't over. There's still another level ahead of you, another version of you waiting to be unlocked, and getting there is going to require even more from you, more discipline, more sacrifice, more resilience, because the higher you go, the harder it gets. The challenges become bigger, the pressure becomes heavier, the expectations become greater, but so do you. You grow into the challenge, you rise to the pressure. You become the person capable of handling everything that once seemed impossible. And that's when you realize you're not the same person anymore. The doubts that once held you back don't control you anymore. The fear that once stopped you doesn't stop you anymore. The excuses that once defined you don't exist anymore. The excuses that once defined you don't exist anymore, because you made a decision, a real decision, to not stop, to not quit, to not settle. And that decision changed everything. So now, as you move forward, as you continue chasing your vision, building your future, becoming the person you were meant to be, remember this: there will still be hard days. There will still be moments where you feel tired, where you feel uncertain, where you feel like slowing down. But you can't. Not now. Not after everything you've been through. Not after how far you have come. Because this is the part where most people give up. And this is the part where you separate yourself from them. This is where you dig deeper, push harder, stay longer, fight stronger. Because the finish line isn't for the most talented. It's for the most relentless. It's for the ones who kept going when it didn't make sense. It's for the ones who refused to quit when quitting felt easier. It's for the ones who had will. And now that's you. So don't slow down. Don't look back. Don't care. I am the journey. Own it. Every struggle, every sacrifice, every step, because it's all shaping you into something powerful, something unstoppable. And one day, sooner than you think, all those early mornings, all those late nights, all those moments where you chose discipline over comfort, they're going to pay off, not just in success, but in who you've become. A person who didn't just have skill, but had the will to go all the way. So take a breath, stand tall, and keep moving forward, because your story isn't over. In fact, it's just getting started. And the truth is, this final stretch, this part right here where everything feels heavier, where the road seems longer, where the excitement has faded and all that's left is discipline. This is where your legacy is decided. Because anybody can start when it's exciting. Anybody can push when they're inspired. Anybody can dream when nothing has tested them yet. But not everybody can endure when the dream demands more than they expected. Not everybody can stay committed when the results are delayed. Not everybody can hold the line when life applies pressure from every direction. But you can, not because you're special, not because you're the most talented, but because somewhere along this journey, you built something stronger than motivation. You built identity. You are no longer the person who tries. You are the person who does. You are no longer the one who hopes things will change. You are the one who makes things change. And that shift, that internal transformation, that's what separates those who wish from those who win. Because no, it's not about forcing yourself anymore. It's about being aligned with who you have become. Discipline is no longer something you struggle with. It's something you live by. Sacrifice is no longer painful. It's purposeful. The grind is no longer something you comp. Laying about is something you embrace, and that's dangerous. Because when a person reaches that level, when they stop negotiating with their excuses, when they stop waiting for perfect conditions, when they decide that no matter what happens, they will keep going, there is nothing left that can break them. Think about that. Not failure, not rejection, not delay, nothing, because everything that used to stop you now fuels you. Every setback becomes a lesson. Every obstacle becomes a challenge. Every moment of doubt becomes a reminder of how far you have already come, and now you move differently. You think differently. You operate at a level most people never reach. Not because they couldn't, but because they wouldn't endure. They wouldn't endure sacrifice. They wouldn't stay consistent long enough to see the results. But you did. And that's why you still here. That's why you still standing. That's why you're still moving forward, even when it's hard, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it feels like you're carrying the weight of everything on your shoulders. Because you understand something most people don't. You understand that success is not owned, it's rented. And the rent is due every single day. Every day you have to show up. Every day you have to put in the work. Every day you have to prove to yourself that you're still committed to the vision you once dreamed about. Because the moment you stop paying that price, the moment you get comfortable, the moment you start thinking you've done enough, that's the moment you start losing everything you've built. So you don't stop, you don't slow down, you don't settle, you keep going, because now it's bigger than you. It's about the life you're creating, the people you're going to inspire, the doors you're going to open for others, the impact you're going to leave behind. And that kind of responsibility, that kind of purpose demands everything you've got. So you give it everything. Now, sometimes, not when you feel like it, every single day, because that's who you are now. A person with will, a person who doesn't quit, a person who doesn't make excuses, a person who finishes what they started. And as you take that next step and the next and the next, something incredible starts to happen. The same world that once doubted you starts noticing you. The same people who once questioned you start respecting you. The same path that once felt impossible starts opening up in ways you never imagined. Not because the world changed, but because you did. You became stronger. You became sharper. You became relentless. And now nothing looks the same because you're not the same. And one day you're going to look back at this version of yourself, the one who struggled, the one who doubted, the one who almost gave up. And you're going to be grateful you didn't quit. And you're going to be grateful you did quit. You're going to be grateful you kept going when it didn't make sense. You're going to be grateful you chose growth over comfort, discipline over distraction, purpose over excuses. Because that decision, that one decision to not stop, will be the reason everything changed. So if you're listening to this right now, if you're standing at that edge, questioning if you have what it takes, let me remind you, you don't need more talent. You don't need better circumstances. You don't need perfect timing. What you need is already inside you. That fire, that hunger, that will. And once you tap into it, once you fully commit to it, once you decide that no matter what happens, you're not turning back, your life will never be the same. Because at that point, winning is no longer a possibility. It becomes inevitable. So rise up, step forward, and go after it with everything you have. Because the question was never whether you had skill. The question was always, do you have the will? And now the answer is clear. Yes, you do.